Hey everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my channel. Tonight's topic is going to be our Python second tutorial all about variables. And again, I'm going to be using idle, which we just installed Python on the last video. And so it will be either at the top or in its own folder here on your menu. And so idle again is this great editor. It's a very simple editor that comes with Python already, so we're just going to use it. And if this helps some of you, I have made my text larger and darker, and so if you ever want to do that, you can go to options to configure idle, and it did give me the options here to choose fonts. I left the same font, but I just made it bold and bumped it up from size 10 to size 14. All right, and so tonight I want to talk a little bit about variables, and they are super easy to use in Python. In fact, you don't have to declare them. You just can immediately start using a variable and set it equal to something. So for instance, and again, I'm just going to do this in our interactive mode tonight. We won't have to worry about creating a script file, I don't think. And so for using a variable, you can just say x is set to some value. And this variable is just a placeholder for this value. And so this value can change. That's why it's a variable. So this is just kind of like a bucket where this value is going to be stored, but later we could put in another value into the bucket. So we say x has been set to 2. And just to help prove that, we can go in and say print the variable, print the value of that variable. And so if we just say print x inside the parentheses, then of course we get 2. So whenever we work with variables, we do not have to declare them. And there's many different data types that we can use. So for instance, we had an integer, a whole value. We can also assign a float, so any kind of fraction number, and Python automatically handles that for us. We don't have to declare what kind of data is going to go into that variable. And so again, if we go in and print what the price is currently set to, then we get the $7.99. Now do be careful with your print statements. If you were to go in and put it in quotes accidentally, so here we have print the price, and of course if you have it in quotes, what do you think is going to print? Yeah, you got it. It's going to print that actual word. And Python is pretty forgiving because it will allow you to do different types of quotes. So whether that was the single or the double quote, it still would have printed the word instead of the value of the variable. And then again, since it is a variable, then it can change. So in other words, we can go in and say, well, now the price is set equal to the old price times 2. So we can just use our asterisks to represent multiply. And so now we go in and print the price. It has doubled. And so it's able to handle these floats accordingly. If we were to now go in and say, well, now y is going to be set equal to whatever the value for x currently is, which is 2. If we go in and add, we'll say 3.5. So we're adding an integer to a float, then it is able to do this for us accordingly, and y is now going to be a float. So the 2 plus 3.5 gives us 5.5. And so just whenever you divide and multiply and things like that, sometimes division may be a little bit tricky, but for the most part, it will handle that for you just fine, going from whole numbers to floats. Well, let's try one more. How about we'll just, the value j is going to be set to, let's see, we have y, which is a float. Let's try to divide that by x, which is still an integer. and then print the value of j. Yeah, so it's still giving it to us as a float without any problem. All right, so we can work with integers, we can work with floats, we can reassign the value of the variables without any problem, and of course it can also work with variables that are text-based, so like a string. And so we can say something like fname for first name is set equal to, whatever you want to put. And then if you were to go in and print, then obviously it will print the value of the variable. All right, so that's pretty much it about the basics of these variables. It will work with multiple different data types. You don't have to declare the data type. You don't have to worry about what type of you don't have to declare the variable. You don't have to worry about what type of data goes into that variable. In fact, x has been the integer all along here, but if we were to go in and then now set x equal to x plus 2.5, then now print x. Notice it's now a float, and so it has gone from an integer to a float without any problem, this placeholder. And also x could be set to a string without any problem. So you can change the value of these variables. That's what makes them variables. But the beauty of Python is you can actually change the data type of what is going to go into that variable without any problem. So it makes them very easy to work with. All right, so that's just a real quick demo for working with some basic variables in Python. Thanks so much.